Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Sean Jenkins of the Hedgeye Gaming, Lodging, and Leisure team. We are here, and it is my pleasure and privilege to welcome back Ismail Vali of the YieldSec company, fascinating data company that is groundbreaking across the online sports betting and casino space. So glad to have you back for call it part 2, maybe to be part 3, part 4, part 5 of this series with you guys. I think what's really exciting about this one, we're going to dive into a lot more of the data,
Absolutely.
Get into the details as to really, I think, from our client's perspective, sizing up, the opportunity for the legal channel, which isn't going to be realized right away. Maybe it's a 1, 2 year, 3 year thing if the governments and all stakeholders can get on board. But really happy to have you here and for you to kind of reintroduce some of your process and product. But of course, thank you for joining us. Really happy to have you here.
Sean, thank you very much for having me. Very happy to be here. Really keen to get through talking about what's going on in the US right now, what's coming up in the near future. And the main issue here is, again, very happy to hear that you changed your vocabulary on the legal channel and the illegal channel, because the most important point here is there is one marketplace, there are two industries in it, one legal, one illegal. And the point now is that illegal industry has been stealing money from America, from the American consumer, from American commerce and community for nearly 3 decades. It's time to take control back. It's time to take our money back.
Yeah. No, I love, sort of there's the ethos of YieldSec and Hedgeye. I think there's a ton of overlap. If there were a Venn diagram, there's plenty of overlap. But maybe I think it would be a good place to start is for those that maybe didn't join last time or only, dove into just the numbers, the big headline, illegal versus legal channel numbers that you guys put out. Maybe just remind folks sort of what your guys' mission is. You kind of alluded to it just there on the intro, but maybe your process, things of that nature, what you guys are working on, what's exciting. Obviously, the U.S. to many of us is the most exciting markets, the growthiest, but maybe just a little intro on that side, a little background would be great.
Sure, thank you. So why does YieldSec exist? So we are a technical intelligence platform that looks at the totality of activity on the internet, all of the audience, all of their activity, all of the time. So we're looking at everything from above at the metadata. We have our own proprietary tech that's looking. We also buy third-party data to look up to establish user journeys and perspectives of where else are people spending time. We look at high-value, high-volume online consumer industries. So gambling is where we started. I have 25 years of experience in gambling. I've run some companies like PokerStars, Sporting Bet, working for what was the Entain business, GVC initially. So I came from that. I was on the side of basically being a gambling executive, and then got to a point where lots of clients I had in the 2010s as a consultant were coming to me and saying, we're not making money online. And they were blaming regulation, they were blaming audience taste. Those were the 2 key things that they were pointing out. My gut feeling, academic background in law, 2 degrees from Oxford University, I looked at this and went, is it changing audience taste? Because I've never known a time in human history, as long as humans have been here, we've had gambling, where they've just gone, yeah, I'm done with that gambling stuff. I'm not doing any of that anymore. So from the time of cavemen onwards, we've been interested in gambling. So at what point did that all of a sudden change? Don't think it's changing audience taste. Is it regulation? There's always been forms of regulation. If you look at the land-based industry, they've always had types of regulation. So is it to the point where regulation online is so bad and so evil that it's killing the industry? I don't think it's either of those. I think it's the black market, what we used to call the black market. Now show me how I can find the black market, determine what the total addressable marketplace is. And everywhere around the world I went to, everybody I spoke to said they had an understanding of that. Nobody had a clue. Okay? So I licensed some tech, turned that into a consumer-facing product, and we didn't come from that data background. I came from industry background. How do we make money? How do we find our audience? How do we retain and maintain that audience going forward? And what we did once we built the YieldSec monitoring platform is basically establish that none of you knew where all the audience were, none of you knew what their activity was, and none of you knew what the value was either. So we basically look for identify what is out there, what are people doing, what are they spending the money on. So it's basically looking at that, follow the money, follow the audience solution. So that's what we built. All of the audience, all their activity, all of the time. That's what YieldSec exists for. What does it mean for clients? We have clients across the legal stakeholder spectrum. So everybody from operators who are legal and licensed to affiliates, media platform, government regulators, treasury teams, law enforcement. Everybody works with us because they understand you guys can show us where everybody is, how we get our customers quickly, show us where the fish radar is effectively, show me how to get to my audience effectively. Should I keep buying the same old pay-per-click advertising on Google, or should I be doing influencers on TikTok? Where should I buy my ads? What's working for everybody in the marketplace? And that means you have to be looking at legal and illegal. You can't just be looking at, here's the legal industry, and all we talk about is the legal industry, when there are two industries in this one marketplace.
Right.
So we have to look at that. So the work we do for everybody is make the money you should. And that even counts for governments, because governments don't make money from tax unless the industry makes money that it pays that tax on. So you have to be looking at make the money you should. That's why you.
It also includes investors that are investing in these companies.
Absolutely,
too, right?
because you'd like to know which stocks should
and
I
us,
invest
and
in.
us analysts that are helping the investors.
Absolutely, but again, look at it from we have a ton of work coming from the financial community now, because they're looking at us and going, you guys are like an early warning system for kind of like, where is the share price going to go?
Yeah.
Where's the real activity going forward? Where are the opportunities that this management team should be chasing down?
Right.
Show me where the money is. So we're easily able to show you where the money is. To take Jerry Maguire's show me the money, this is show me where the money is.
Yeah.
That's what YieldSec is doing. Okay.
I think you just made a really good point and got me thinking about really the main topic is, you know, heading into 2024. And really even still now, despite all the illegal activity that's still, you know, thriving,
Yes.
flourishing. The growth rate of the legal channel is so strong. So I speak with some people that are maybe newer to the space, and they're like, well, do I really need to care about the illegal channel if growth is already so strong? But I think your point would be, well, you're leaving so much money on the table and you have no real idea yet about that.
So,
I think maybe that's something that's like you guys are hitting data over the head.
Absolutely.
You know?
So let's just cut to the chase on
Yeah,
the
I
numbers.
think so. Maybe.
So we had a marketplace, which again, everyone's heard the number now. So we looked at 2023 numbers and we put it out there, and most people lost their mind, especially on social media.
Yeah.
So we said the total value of American online gambling, sports, casino, poker only, there's a whole bunch of other stuff we're not even including here, that total value is around $58 billion a year in GGR. So we're talking profitability. Let's look at our projection for next year, okay? For the whole year, we're looking at a marketplace that's basically coming in at $92 billion. So this
What slide would we jump to for that?
So that is
Maybe
basically 35.
We could jump. We're going to jump around a little bit here, studio team. So if we jump over to, what did you say?
Thank you for the studio team.
Yeah. No, we need them. Yeah, we wouldn't know what we're doing
So
otherwise.
slide 35, guys,
Okay,
right towards
slide
the back.
35. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're basically looking here. This is 2024 projected. We're looking at 67.8 billion for the illegal industry, sports, casino, poker. Bear in mind with our sports number, we include Predictor products in that section of sports because it's just another sports betting product to the illegal industry. It's being expressed as a Predictor product because they know that that's catnip for today's under 30-year-old audience in America. For the legal industry, we've got traditional sports, casino, poker, restricted by states, and we're looking at 24.2 billion. So we're looking at an overall marketplace value on sports, casino, and poker in the USA, online only, $92 billion next year. Okay, so this thing is a runaway train of growth at the moment, but we are pressing the brakes for the legal channel because we're not giving them the opportunities they need. Give us the products we need, which means opening up the pipe on legislation. Give us casino. And the biggest fundamental disability that the legal industry has right now in America, where is cross-sell? Where is it? Okay, so if you cannot cross-sell a customer from sports into casino, into poker, and back again, all that you are running effectively across the legal channel right now is the loss-leading product called sports betting, which basically runs at a single-digit profit margin if you're lucky. And American industry generally has not been that lucky. If you look at the last 3 years on Super Bowl, look at the last 3 years on NFL playoffs.
Well, certainly October, you know.
Exactly.
A lot of our audience is maybe even just looking at the next, you know, and myself included, we talked about this morning, November numbers bounced back. They were better. October was abysmal. A lot of that is luck factor, but still, it's been a series of bad luck.
But we're calling it bad luck, but it's just, it's baked in if you look at seasonality in any other country in the world that has all the products there. So if we look at a marketplace like the UK, start of the football season, the January transfer window are always abysmal, okay? Always.
Oh,
but the rest of the season evens it out.
Yeah.
So I don't need, and then I've got cross-sell available from day one. I can push customers into casino, I can push them into poker, I can push them into other products, lottery, for example. So I'm able to make my profit margin, and it's a blended 15-16%. Okay, so I can afford to take a 6 to 9% margin on sports only because I know I'll make my money back on casino. In America, who has that? Hardly anybody has it.
6 states, exactly.
Exactly, and I'm restricted even on the products I can offer in casino. So there is an issue with our inability to get to a legislation cycle that means that we've got all of the products all the time. Legislators who are looking at this going, well, we allowed some sports betting, haven't we done enough? No, you haven't done enough because this industry has been possessed by crime for 3 decades. If you don't get hold of kicking out the crime, we will never fundamentally remove that.
I think maybe maybe we're gonna jump back towards the beginning of some of the slides here. I forget what slide it is, and I really like the analogy that you and I talked about offline that maybe you can talk to some folks about in terms of not sticks and stones. It's it's the straw, sticks, and bricks analogy, which is on slide 11, guys. If you could pull that up, I think really helpful.
This is just to give the audience a flavor of this. This is a story hour on Hedgeye today. So we're going to talk about the fable of the three little pigs. And the three little pigs basically built their houses out of different things. So three little pigs existed. They basically said, I'm going to build my house out of straw, hay. I'm going to build my house out of sticks. And I'm going to build my house out of bricks. And there was a big bad wolf that existed, which was the reason they wanted to build these houses, to protect themselves, to stay warm, dry, and not be eaten by that big bad wolf.
Yeah.
Now, big bad wolf came along and he said, let me in, kind of thing. And the pig said, no, we're not going to let you in, not by the hair of our chinny chin chin. And he huffed and he puffed and he blew those houses in. Now, in the first two, the straw and the sticks, he was able to blow the houses in and eat the pigs. In the third one, the bricks, he wasn't able to blow the door in and he wasn't able to eat the pig. Pig actually ate him later on is what happened in that fable.
That's right.
Now, we're using that analogy to point out what thing here. If you build your house out of straw, it is not safe, it will not protect anything. You have that in basically any marketplace like California, Georgia, Texas, Utah. Nothing is legal.
Right.
So you've built your house out of straw and you're saying, because we have a law that says there's no online gambling, because you haven't passed enabling legislation that therefore presumes there's no online gaming, you're wrong. You built your house out of straw and you're going to be eaten up. Yeah. And you have been eaten up by crime, fundamentally eaten up by crime. So what's happened there is the entire marketplace value. If we look at our charts here, can cut to slide 10 in a moment, guys, on California, 2023, nearly $6 billion in GGR went to crime. This year, for the first half of the year, you go to $2.5 billion has already gone to crime. So you're looking at multi-billion dollars just being taken up by crime.
And if you sort of seasonally adjust that, we're looking at decent growth actually in that in that total market that we have for California.
So again, looking at all of the audience, all their activity, all the time, are Californians engaging? Are Texans engaging with this? Hell yes, they are. Every damn day. So they're looking at these products all the time. They're engaging with those products all the time. We impute a value for that because we know how much are you going to need to deposit with an illegal gambling site. Roughly $100 every time, because illegal gambling understands one thing. They get you to pay more right there at the front door, okay? $100 to come in, okay? $10 if you bet with BetMGM or Caesars or DraftKings, because they're legal licensed companies who understand we need low barriers to entry. Illegal gambling is arrogant because it's like, you haven't got any other choice.
Right.
We're going to charge you as much money up front. We're going to push you, we're going to acquire you through sports, push you into casino and other things and make our money from you. It's a boiler room for customers, this stuff. Cutting back to slide 11, team, thank you. So nothing legal, you built your house out of straw. So that's the problem here, and that fable of the three little pigs, you are going to get eaten. In legal sports betting only states, so states like New York, for example, okay? So how come that's a disabled market? How come it's been not built the right way? You built your house out of sticks because you only allowed one product. New York's a really good example to talk about because, again, you've got a 51% tax on stakes. Yeah. So for every $10 bet, $5.10 goes to the state immediately. So I am not surprised the state loved that law.
Yeah, of course. Well, Cuomo said that. He's like, yeah, this is going to be for the state to make money, not the operators.
And that's exactly
what's happening. And the operators did the deal with the devil back then. Hopefully they'll get gaming at some point.
But you need to, because again, what you're building here is a Jenga tower. So what you've done is basically go, here's the Jenga tower we have, which was already full of holes because crime had been there for 3 decades. So Cuomo coming in and going, it's for the state, it's not for the industry. Well, you're going to need the industry if you want that money for tax on you. Right. Okay? Because if the legal industry has 2 choices here. Either they will go bust, which is happening already in America. How many firms did we have? How many do we have now? We'll touch on that later. Sure. The other point is they can just volunteer and go, we don't want to have this anymore. We're not going to make any money here. Everybody who joined the legal New York sports betting marketplace did so because they were stalking to get to the products that they wanted ultimately, which is give us all the products all of the time, allow us to meet the audience, because everybody is gambling with the legals right now. So allow the legal industry room to roam. Give them the ability to grow effectively. But right now, what you've given them is a really fragile Jenga tower. So you keep pulling things out and going, well, we're going to put a really high tax rate on you. You've pulled a whole load of bricks out of the Jenga tower. Now, we're going to say that you guys need to basically pay for responsible gaming. You need to pay for audience protection. You need to pay for child exclusion. You need to pay for mental health services. A whole bunch more bricks got pulled out. Right. Because the illegal guys don't pay any of that stuff. Right. So now you're in a position where if you do one more thing in New York, let's say you increase the tax rate even further. Okay? You put a levy on there for horse racing or something. Now the whole thing starts to fall apart.
Right.
And who benefits from all of that chaos? The illegal industry benefits from that chaos, because they will always be there, come rain or shine, whatever state governments do, whatever regulation authorities do to an industry, the legal industry, the one that pays for everything, for this industry that knowingly features products with risks. So the point here is, let's get to a common sense view of what regulations should be, and a common sense view of what harmonized taxation should also look like, because that's another big problem in America is, we've got across the tectonic plates of price, product, promotion, how do I offer the best price to consumers? I can't as an operator if I'm basically told, here's the tax rate, deal with it.
And then the other example, which maybe we're going to get to here, is the best option, which is the bricks that we have so far. But even there, it's not perfect, right?
Exactly. So let's
no perfect world.
Let's bear in mind here that even with the perfect example of legal sports betting and casino are allowed, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, okay, that's your building your house from bricks, okay. Problem still is you're always going to have crime, because this is a high value, high volume online industry that will always attract interest from crime, okay? Always, across lots of things. In YieldSec, for example, we don't just look at gambling, we look at streaming, crypto, a whole bunch of other consumer industries. Gambling is where we started and where our heart is in the business, because we had the background experience in it. What we really understand here is, even where you have legal sports betting and casino, you have to give a level playing field, because otherwise your house out of bricks is not going to stand on the right land and is going to be flooded by crime coming in again, and that big bad wolf will come back. So legal gambling will not make the money it should if you let crime in. That's what the big bad wolf represents, is crime, okay? So the point here is that even in states like New Jersey, you still have, it's still running at a rate of what? In 2023, we're running at 68%, 62% in New Jersey was legal,
right,
and 38% was illegal.
Yeah, if we could have slide 10 up, because I wanted to maybe touch on a few of those examples. I love that the way that you guys framed up the data for us, easy for us all to, this is, we're speaking to analysts and portfolio managers here that let's see the damn data, right? And so you gave us the damn data right here. And I think what's great about this is the perspective of, okay, it's 60-40, 70-30. I think I look at that, and you'd shared some data with us maybe a month or two ago on sort of what that comparably looks like in a market like the UK, which is looked on as, at least until recent news and thoughts of the Labour Party, or maybe not thoughts of think tanks, call it that. The UK looks a little bit different. Maybe you could speak to kind of what a gold standard, if there is any out there, and we'll characterize the UK as such, what their percentages look like, maybe.
Absolutely.
For folks.
So you look at a market like the UK, obviously you can hear from the sound coming out of my mouth, I'm from the UK, born and raised there. Did my first work in the industry there for Ladbrokes, now an Entain company. The UK is a specific example in the kind of global online gaming marketplace ecosystem. So the UK has never had a prohibition period, which we have had in pretty much every other country in the world, including the United States. There has never been a period where gambling on any form was banned in the UK. We have 2,500 legal licensed brands online in the UK, okay? So there is tons of consumer choice. If I am an illegal gambling company, if I'm the big bad wolf looking to come to the United Kingdom, how am I going to make money when I'm versus 2,500 other guys? How? I still need to buy advertising, I still need to buy pay-per-click, I still need to do a whole bunch of work on SEO to get my brand recognized. Right. And why would anyone even gamble with me when they don't know who I am? Kind of thing. Because we can identify you from a consumer perspective, you might be the big bad wolf that I've heard about. I don't want to let you in to my wallet, basically, to have you steal my money. So from a consumer perspective in the UK, why would you gamble with illegals? If you don't have any choice, you will gamble with them. Now, which audiences will that apply to? Children and self-excluded customers. And that's where YieldSec 3 years ago said, over here, we've noticed something where we're seeing some weird activity here, and we double-checked and triple-checked it, and we have this great technical intelligence platform where we're able to say, all the audience, all their activity, all the time, we're seeing kids and customers who probably are self-excluded, because what are they searching for? Not on GamStop. GamStop being the scheme name for self-exclusion in the UK. Oh, really? So the minute that scheme name was out there, that brand term, who looks for GamStop? If I'm a 25-year-old who has no gambling problems and I just want to put a bet on the Arsenal versus Man U game, am I typing in not on GamStop Sportsbook? No, I'm just typing in best price on Arsenal kind of thing. So anybody who's typing in or saying to Alexa and Siri, not on GamStop Sportsbook, not on GamStop Casino, not on GamStop Poker, you're somebody who's on that self-exclusion scheme more than likely, or you're somebody who's looking to sell to somebody on that self-exclusion scheme.
Right.
So we noticed that, and we said there's what we think is a phenomenon that we call vulnerability victimization, that certain vulnerable communities are being targeted. There are 50,000 people on the GamStop scheme now. Next year it'll probably be, by the time they announce the new figures next year, we'll probably see it go up to 65, 70,000, because this year we had the European Championships and we had the Olympics and all this kind of stuff, so it will rise basically. So there are a number of people who have gambling addiction problems, and those are the ones that are being targeted. That led, for the UK, basically during the pandemic, we also had a period where people were spending more time at home, people are engaging with things like illegal streaming more because of the cost of living crisis. And what does illegal streaming of sports and illegal gambling mean? Perfect products joined together. So now I can bet on something that I'm able to watch for free. Tyson Fury fight cost me $50 to watch, basically. Well, if I use illegal betting, it doesn't. I can now put that $50 I would have spent on watching the fight into betting on the fight, but it happens to be with an illegal provider. So we're finding that there is a convenience play and a vulnerability play in the UK that's led to a growing share of illegal operator presence there. They're now running at just over 5% clip. For the end of this year, I think we'll probably just break 6% of the total take in the UK will be illegal. And in the future, what happens in the UK under the new Labour government, they didn't increase the taxes yet, but they said they'll think about it during 2025. My gut feeling is they will probably have to put the tax rates up because they need the money that badly in the UK right now. So there'll be a revisiting of that. They've made a commitment to the white paper concerns in the UK that we're going to come back, we're going to change, allow for gambling reform. But all of that gambling reform is going to mean what for the legal industry? Reform means changes that you guys in the legal industry have to pay for. So if they need to pay for it, again, it comes down to the Jenga tower again. Where's the money? Where's the money? Where's the money? And if the illegals are constantly allowed to steal and use the saddle of more charges being put on the legal industry as their opportunity creation. So more that you do to the legal industry, the more we benefit from it, is really what's happening here. So think about this as digital economy dynamics. If you tell one legal industry that has a shadow behind it constantly, basically going, any opportunity we perceive here, we will take advantage of. The illegal industry is one step ahead of the legal industry, always, not behind, but they're looking at all of that change coming from government, coming from regulator, coming from audience, coming from industry, and going, anything you do, we'll take advantage of it. And that's exactly what they've done in the UK. That system of self-exclusion scheme exploitation, it's now gone global, that thing, because it makes so much money. Because you're pointing out a certain type of customer that has a gambling addiction problem, self-admitted, they're on a register, not publicly obviously, but they're on that register. And if you now give them advertising, you go to that one concern that when they hit that point of weakness as a human being, that they feel that itch that they are going to have to scratch in addiction terms, they're now basically going to interact with a product. And you know, for the $5, $10 you spent on pay-per-click per person, that's going to convert into $150, $200 in profit immediately. So it's a sick way of looking at the industry, but that's what illegal industry guys do.
But it's the reality of their approach. I guess, so the number you think illegal channel activity might get to 6% of the total, 5-6% of the total in the UK. I obviously look at states that we characterize in the green as bricks. Here in the US with New Jersey and Pennsylvania as the examples you call out. Michigan's another one that you have here for first half at least. Is there an opportunity? And do you ever see, I mean, look, in a blue sky, perfect scenario, do you think a lot of these states, there's an opportunity for that 40 or that 30 to get to 10 and 15 and 5 at some point? Or is it too late? No. I guess is what Sean, a lot of us are going to be asking.
Absolutely great question. So look, it's never too late, okay? The whole point of YieldSec was kick out the crime anytime, okay? So it would be preferable if you kicked out the crime at the beginning.
Right.
So even in Vegas, let's take a land-based resort example here. The Las Vegas lesson that I learned before setting up YieldSec was this. Vegas had a great adult playground kind of dream that we'll set this place up, people will come to the desert, and that sounded crazy back in the 1920s and 30s. It was like, who the hell is going to come here to this GI pit stop on the way back to Los Angeles and basically stay here and spend money here and want to come here from all over the world? That dream worked out, didn't it? But it also came with a nightmare, which was organized crime, okay? Now, Vegas and Nevada got to the point in the late 70s where they went, we are dying. The Jenga tower is no longer kind of standing up on its own. It's getting very fragile. And people did not want to go to Vegas anymore because there was so much crime there and it felt like you were being ripped off. Okay? So there was a certain type of low-end customer going there who wasn't spending money anymore,
Right.
and they're not making the cash they wanted to. So from organized crime, they were kind of looking at this going, well, we're not making the money we used to. And then RICO came in, racketeering enforcement, which is now weirdly being used against tech platforms for illegal gambling. But we'll touch on that in a second. So it's interesting how it comes.
Like to touch on that.
Interesting how
That's
how all of these things come up. So RICO was invented in the late 70s, early 80s, and it targeted organized crime across America, but also in Nevada and Vegas in particular. What did that lead to? Kick out the crime. Okay, get rid of them. That's not enough though. You also need processes that keep it gone in future. And that's what Nevada and Vegas did really well. Keep the crime out, develop processes to maintain that crime being removed, and maintain systems of knowing where does corruption come from, where does executive abuse come from, where does organized crime get entry here again, where does money laundering come into, all these kind of things. So Vegas understood, set up the model that keeps it out. That's the Las Vegas lesson for me. Apply that online. It doesn't matter how long your online marketplace has been running for. It doesn't matter what state it's in. You can always get to a better channelized position. And we'd say any marketplace in the world should be looking for 80-20. 80% is legal, 20% is illegal, okay? Because there's certain new products you won't see early enough. There are certain new restrictions you want from an audience perspective, which are going to be taken advantage of, and you need to put better processes in. But 80-20 is achievable within a few years of working with YieldSec, okay?
No, that's super helpful. No, I think for people to think about, like, you know, the bear case would be, hey, this is only going to get worse because these states are stupid and the companies, you know, have their head in the sand. I don't think that to be the case. I think there's clearly some momentum, at least from my perspective, since we've really gotten into this discussion and then, you know, met you guys, which definitely helped accelerate our knowledge base on this topic. But framing it up for 20% is a realistic goal in terms of getting the illegal channel down, that makes a lot of sense.
And there's everything to play for here. You can see from those numbers, especially in America, where we're pushing towards $100 billion GGR market value.
A lot of money up for grabs. Yeah.
So we're going from basically now, where we're 10-20 for the legal industry, we're going to end up in there. It's going to be a record-breaking year this year, like every year has been. It's easy to break records when they're coming out of nowhere.
Right.
But when you start looking at it in the continuum of, we're just replacing the crime. We're taking it back, taking back our control, taking back our money, taking back our profitability, and fundamentally taking back the benefit to American commerce, American community, American consumers. Okay? That should be the focus here, that there is everything to play for. What we should be focused on here is that this business should be going through a rapid period of innovation and growth in the US, and we're certainly going through growth, not the growth that I think you could be going through, because we can see here the total marketplace spectrum. The growth that you should be experiencing is also in innovation, because every other industry in the world, especially online, when it came to America, and America allowed it, it blossomed, okay? We're not seeing that in iGaming, are we? We're basically seeing that 2 years ago, we had 127 legal licensed iGaming operators across America, sports betting and casino providers. Last year, that was at 108. This year, we're at 103. We're going to be down to about high 90s at the end of this year, okay? Yeah. So if you take out the value of anybody who was operating for a certain part of this year, remove those and say that, okay, they stopped operating. Once we get into 2025, you're in double digit, okay? We're not in treble digit anymore for the number of operators. That's not good when it's not being led to by M&A activity, whole bunch of brands buying each other. So we haven't had the M&A free-for-all that we all expected yet.
We had it like a little bit.
We had a little bit, and in certain marketplaces.
Gold Nugget, DraftKings,
There's been a little bit of that, but there hasn't been what we all expected. This is going to be like Wall Street 2 or something is what we all expected to see, and we didn't see that.
I'm sure the bankers were hoping for that.
Look, we've all been hoping for it. So again, every time that there's any M&A and opportunities in iGaming, everybody's like, okay, it's like the gold rush. So we all wanted this to be a gold rush, but like I said at the beginning of this 5 years ago, nearly 7 years ago now with legal iGaming in America, at the beginning of this, I said basically, there's going to be a point here where you all have to accept it's like a lot of countries about the size of Belgium. It's what you're looking at in America, okay? So that's the value of most states. They're about the value of a country like Belgium. Are you going to get excited about 25 Belgiums? Not really. But because you call it America, everybody gets gung-ho about it. And then when they hear about California, they're like, yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, Texas,
if you want it to be California and you want these states to happen, the main message you need to keep giving them is this, and to the tribes and to all the legal stakeholder groups. How do you legalize any state? All that money is going to crime right now, guys. Right now. So if you're a tribal gaming group, okay, and you're saying that we don't want to allow legal iGaming because it's going to cannibalize our revenues and we built these billions of dollars worth resorts, guys, the cannibalization effect?
It's already happening.
Already happened.
Yeah.
Happened a long time ago.
I think that's a great place to maybe jump ahead, guys, to slide 18, just so we can go through some of these state examples, which thank you guys again for putting together this data. I think that the 800-pound gorilla that everybody's focused on or hoping to see some action on is California. I think maybe more top of mind recently is Texas and Florida, given comments from people in Texas that have an influence, and then people, obviously the Seminole tribe or Hard Rock being potentially interested in partnering with marquee operators, which from our perspective is DraftKings or FanDuel.
Absolutely.
Most likely. But just on the California example, the guys have it up 5.6 billion.
Yep.
That's a big number.
It's a big number.
That's a really big
getting
number.
bigger.
It's getting bigger. Yes, if we use your first half estimates and adjust for seasonality around sports betting and continued growth, it's going to be bigger than the 5.6. It'll be 6+ probably this year.
I'd say we're into the 6, but basically, again, bear in mind on the year. So every year in America, you have one of the most polarized sports calendars in the world. Okay?
Yeah.
So everything takes place in Q1 and half of Q2, and then it's kind of over, and everyone's like, where did it all go? All that sports I heard about has just disappeared.
And it comes back late in the year. Yeah.
Later in the year, so you get back into August, and it's preseason, and it's like a heavyweight boxing contest every week with the NFL.
Oh yeah.
So it's the most polarized sports betting calendar, because coming from Europe, you can't understand this, where the sports season starts in August and it just carries on and on and on and on and on, right up until May and then into June with the Champions League final for soccer. So from a European perspective, it's almost impossible to understand unless you're monitoring the sports betting market and living in America. You just don't realize how polarized it is. So there is a very short window here to make money on. And if you're a sports betting executive for any of the legal companies, what do you do with marketing budget? I spent 15 years as a marketing director for many of these companies around the world, okay? And I was good, I hope, at what I did, judging by the results at least.
There you go.
So from all those results for those companies, I understood that I had to resist one thing. I have a pot of money, $100 a year in marketing budget, and how do I use that budget? I need to acquire customers all over the audience spectrum and demographics, and what are the big marquee events I'm going to have? In Europe, it's fairly easy. Start of the soccer season, middle of the soccer season with transfer windows when players are bought and sold, closing of the soccer season when the championships and leagues and cups tie up, kind of thing. Right. So I've got a few opportunities there. In America, you have about 2 opportunities to acquire customers. And you're going to do your marketing budget really quickly. You're going to burn it all on start of the NFL, August and September. Yeah. You're then going to come back to it for NFL playoffs in January, Super Bowl in February, and then what comes around the corner? March Madness.
Yeah.
And March Madness is the most bet on event in humanity's history, okay? So you're looking at March Madness coming up and you're going to acquire customers. So as a marketing person, you're going to basically go, it's NFL and March Madness are the 2 acquisition opportunities. And you probably do most of your marketing budget there and then. And then you leave yourself nothing for the rest of the year. Yeah. And that's a problem generally for how you spend your money. And from how we look at things, where's the audience? All of the audience, all the activity all the time. Going back to California, 5.6 billion is a big number. It's going to rise definitely to over 6 in 2024, and it's going to carry on rising. This is the crown jewel in American iGaming terms. It's a big population state. I wouldn't say it's the most valuable state. There's others that have got less population, but they spend more on gambling per capita. Californians also have a heavy burden of other stuff they have to spend money on. Taxes, fuel, etc. Everything costs more.
And they're all at the beach and enjoying the nice weather.
There's a lot of things to spend your money on.
Us miserable people up in Boston, we're just betting on our bad teams, and it's raining, and it's anyway.
Lots of things to spend your money on. Lots of yoga pants and Teslas and everything else. There's a lot of things you can spend your cash on.
Sure.
However, everybody still has their pregnancy of, I love this sports gambling thing, and I love the stuff that I can do with casinos too. And you can only look at the number of tribal casinos that work and make money in California, and racetracks and poker rooms that are there, to see that there's obviously a huge interest in gambling in California. The problem is, how are we going to get it legalized, okay? Because on the one hand, you've got DraftKings, FanDuel, and all the other firms lobbying and saying, we should have all the products all the time available now. And then you've got the tribes resisting and going, well, we don't want this, you're going to cannibalize our revenues. One thing I'd say to the tribal gaming community is this. If you want to sell your rights, so if you had rights over sports betting online and you want to sell those rights used to be 5, 6, 7 years ago when American iGaming first began legally, those rights would sell for millions of dollars a year, wouldn't they? Now, you'd be lucky to sell those rights for a few $100 grand, because everybody knows you're dealing in a marketplace that's infected by crime.
Yeah.
If you kicked out the crime as part of a union of people there who are legal stakeholders working and banding together to get rid of the crime and increase your value,
then launch,
now you can sell your rights to DraftKings and FanDuel for those millions per year. And you'll get revenue share on those rights too. So isn't it a better thing to be backing a marketplace where you've controlled it to increase your value? Okay, go for that rather than just saying no, it's going to stop people coming to our casinos. In terms of the cannibalization point, let's say it again. You already have been cannibalized. You have been for the last 3 decades because illegal online gaming has been there in all forms. So if it's a choice between I can stay at home and play slots on my phone, or go to your resort casino outside Palm Springs. That was a choice that consumers made all the time, every week, okay?
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. And I think you make a good point, or you got me thinking about the idea of playing slots at home or sports bet at home. Is it fair to assume, and you guys gave us a lot of data, but I'm sure there's another layer of data to this, and I think some folks out there would probably be wondering, maybe is it fair to assume that the split of casino revenue versus sports in the illegal channel is roughly similar to the legal channel? So call it 70-30 casino versus sports. I mean, obviously casino is more value, higher ARPU than is sports betting, but just for us to sort of maybe frame up the 5-6, is it $2 billion for sports or 1.5 or
I'd say that's I wouldn't want to start quoting numbers here today. I say that's another call we do in January.
Okay, all right,
let's do the sports betting and casino split and other product split. Let's do the granularity split on a future call. I think the one thing that you can say about this is basically across America, everybody acquires customers the same way. What's the cheapest thing to acquire customers on? Somebody else's sports events. That's the easiest way to get them. So if you're offering bets on sports events, if you're offering bets on stuff that's in the public imagination and cultural interest, that's how you acquire easily. Trying to convince somebody to play slots from day zero is hard. Yeah. Why do I need this slot machine in my life? What's it going to do for me?
Right.
However, betting on will Trump win the election? Betting on when will Barbara Streisand die? Betting on who's going to win the NFL this year? All those things are interesting to consumers, clearly, because they're clicking on that stuff on social media every day. And I mentioned things like Barbara Streisand dying. I love Barbara Streisand. She's a saint to me, okay? But Barbara Streisand is one of the leading death pool bets on Predictor marketplaces.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay? And that shows you that, again, consumers will interact with
I thought we were
stuff.
going to be positive today.
I am positive. Long live Barbara Streisand, just to be clear. But just to be clear on one thing, this is a marketplace that exists on Predictor marketplaces because consumers have put it there. The audience is saying what they want on these marketplaces. So Predictor marketplaces started from things like FTX and Binance, where basically people were saying, where's the price of Bitcoin going to go in the next 60 minutes, 60 seconds? What's the price of the S&P 500 going to do in the next 60 minutes? So everything started there on these financial apps, and the financial apps found very quickly this is a sticky audience product. People love these things, and they keep coming back through all the alerts and notifications you get. They keep coming back to our product. Yeah. So we might be able to sell them Bitcoin once a week, but we can sell them these predictor games once every hour. So that's a great product to have. When FTX collapsed, for example, 15% of its value was in these products. So it shows you that this is a weaponized product for the under 30-year-old audience. Yeah. Again, the legal industry does not have access to this thing right now. It's being considered as this is a financials product potentially. And the taxation rates are completely different. The rules are completely different. The thing to bear in mind here is that this is a gambling product, bar none, okay? Yeah. It's a coin toss bet. It's 50-50 coin shots is all this is. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do you feel like, I mean, from people you talk to, obviously you're global, but you've done a lot of stuff here in the U.S. and I'm sure there's plenty more for you to keep doing in the U.S. Do you kind of get the sense that market's already gotten big enough where regulators are sort of circling in terms of trying to figure out how they can get their share of that activity?
I'm not sure about that yet, because from a regulatory perspective, we said 3 years ago, there is this thing called predictors. Because again, going back to my example earlier, why did I set up YieldSec? People coming to me as a consultant and saying, we're not making money. Yeah. I've never had a period in this business where I didn't make money every month, okay, as an operator. So I can't understand it when an operator comes to me and says, I haven't made money for a year. I haven't made money for 2 years. It's like this scene in The Godfather. It's like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? You can be a man and run your business properly. And running your business properly means telling everybody what's really going on out there. Yeah. So what's really going on out there is you've had predictor activity going on for years, okay? Where basically we were seeing this from the point of this AI and machine learning platform with expert human teams behind it at YieldSec. What is out there? We found predictors. We found that people were betting on these things and we were going, these are just sports bets by another name. So it's kind of fooling the audience and basically making you think that this is, and it's been sold to the under 30-year-old demographic this way. It's convinced a young audience that you are not gambling, you are predicting. Okay, might be some clever language, some of us might be smirking or laughing. It's nothing to laugh about. The point here is you're convincing them that it's investment, and therefore justifies their behavior, legitimizes their behavior, legitimizes their spend matrix on that behavior too. So the amount of money that we're seeing going towards predictor products is huge, and it's baked into these numbers for the sports betting end of it as well.
Okay.
On
so
our illegal spectrum.
You guys treat it as,
I
mean, I think that's, well, in our world, thinking about what's actually addressable, I would treat that as sports
It's
betting.
absolutely sports betting.
Yeah.
It has all of the hallmarks of sports betting. It doesn't matter that there's been an appeal court decision that's basically saying, yeah, we think it's financials maybe. All of that stuff in law is fluid. It's on, it's on a continuum that will basically, it will be challenged again. So for every big company there is that's challenging those decisions, what about people like DraftKings coming in and saying, yeah, we're interested in this thing too. Of course they're interested. Of course they should be interested. It is a gaming product.
Right.
Plain and simple, okay?
Right.
And if you look at the amount of bets that are going on there, for every regulator who says things like, we're not going to allow the Oscars to be bet on this year. We're not going to allow the elections to be bet on this year. I'm sure that seems very magnanimous of you, that you're making these decisions about what you think the audience activity is. Just go to a predictor market and tell me what you see there.
Yeah, if
'Cause
it's
they're
there,
betting on
people want it.
everything.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So California, great example. I think the other big opportunity that people are focused on is on the next couple slides here, hitting on the Texas market, guys. If you could put those up. There we go. Great state of Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, except, well, the numbers maybe on a per cap basis are comparable to California. Rough math in the head, but
It should be higher, actually. I think
yeah, it's a little bit higher.
basis,
Okay, there you go. So 3.7 billion in 23. We're probably going to be growing against that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't see the year here as 50-50 in terms of the first 6 months
Sure,
versus
sure,
the last
yeah,
6 months.
yeah.
The second 6 months of the year are always bigger because
Definitely,
obviously the NFL kicks in hard then,
Yep.
and you've got NBA and everything running also.
Right.
The other piece here is that this year would skew things, is basically you're going to have an even bigger second half of the year because of the Olympics.
Okay,
So
yeah,
that
yeah.
also needs to be baked in this year.
Got it.
And the other point here has to be borne in mind. It's worth pointing out here to all of legal gambling. Next time there's a Copa America, have a Spanish version of your website, have Spanish promotions
that
on
might
your
have helped,
website.
yeah, that might
It
have
could have helped, okay? Because what we found was in that Hispanic-speaking audience, okay, living in America, accessing on American IP connections, everybody was using illegal sites, either because they came with those apps on their phone from Mexico, from Colombia, etc., or they were living here and they were receiving social media that's basically telling them, bet with X brand. Those were offshore brands, though, that are illegal in the USA.
Right.
So all of the activity for Copa America, 4 weeks of some of the best soccer in the world was being played, and an amazing tournament.
Yeah, it was
all
good.
of that went to illegal brands. So there was not one legal brand in the top 10 of Copa America betting that we saw, not one
Really?
legal brand for soccer betting, not one. Everything was illegals. So again, we boiled it down to let's have the team check, and the team checked, and there were very few who had English and Spanish versions of their website and app. English and Spanish versions of their advertising, social media outreach. It's an absolute open goal, that was. Get that community to convert. They're some of the highest spending customers in the marketplace, and you miss them completely. On one of these marquee, happens every 4 years events where you could have recruited a valuable audience who would then convert into other products as well, if you had those products. So Copa America for us was, what a missed opportunity.
Oh, interesting. I mean, because when we talk to the companies and just people in the industry, they're like, yeah, it was a nice little boost, but not much.
Yeah.
But it kind of got us thinking, well, like, did you leave money on the table because you didn't focus on it?
You did leave money on the table because of the most obvious thing of language.
Yeah, well, there you go. Okay, well, that's a simple fix for the next time around, or
Absolutely
in theory it
simple
should
fix.
be, right? Just in thinking about the 3.7 for Texas, and wherever we land here for 2024, I think some people look at these numbers, as did we the first few times, and we've touched on it throughout, but maybe just to level set, your process for validating these numbers. Maybe just give people kind of the 60
Absolutely.
seconds on that,
Yeah.
the right to the point on how
Okay.
you guys can triangulate that.
So let's go to slide 3, guys, and we can quickly run through this. So just to give us a view of what YieldSec does here. So basically, we have a monitoring platform, which we took from a counterinsurgency and anti-terrorism background, looking for ideology, hearts and minds across the audience, because it was looking for anybody who was putting up content around Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, ISIS, etc. We took that exactly the same stack and basically adapted it to be used for consumer industries online, starting with gambling. So what are we looking at? Audience. And if we look at this kind of eye of Sauron here, we're looking at a few channels. The eyes of the points of the compass here are search, streaming, sites, and social. So what's going on out there in terms of what are people looking for? What sites are they interacting with? Where are they on streaming sites? Illegal streaming, predominantly here. So if I don't have the money to pay for ESPN.com,
Right.
if I don't have the money to pay for my NBA Live League Pass, where am I finding that content? Because you are finding it somewhere, okay? It's not for nothing that YieldSec is also in the illegal streaming business, because we see that nexus between sports gambling and streaming all the time. If you don't spend the money on streaming, you will spend the money on gambling, probably, if you can see that as a value play. Social media obviously drives a ton of the audience, and then it's apps, peer-to-peer communications. Obviously, we're not cracking things like WhatsApp and Telegram, but we see an echo of those conversations on Discord, on Reddit, on social media groups. So we're looking for, again, bear this in mind, illegal gambling is not trying to hide. Okay? It's not even hiding in plain sight. It's just there. So let's not be trying to say this is like a shadow that we can never get our arms around it. These guys are trying to make money just like the legal industry is. And the thing is, they are making money because they're taking advantage of opportunities. So when it comes to audience, they're there first. They were there on peer-to-peer communications way before any legal brand was there. So before any legal brand went, hey, why don't we have a WhatsApp channel? Why don't we use it for customer support? 5 years ago for the illegal guys. They were there a long time before. When it came to things like social media, when it came to things like having user groups based around Bitcoin price movements, based around NFL groups, illegal gambling was always there. So the innovation tends to come from illegals, and then we're trying to convert some of that. It shouldn't be that way. Innovation should be coming from the legal industry. If it was making the money it should, then you'd see that innovation. So looking at our process again, 8 ecosystem essentials here, okay? Search, sites, streaming, social, apps, affiliates, ads, and then peer-to-peer communications. All of that feeds into illegal gambling. There's one thing that we rarely say publicly, we rarely put it in our slides decks, we're going to say it today. What's the 9th ecosystem essential? What's the other thing that we're tracking for from all of that online activity, all of those billions of lines of data that we get every single day? 9th ecosystem essential, the money, the money, the money. The whole point of this is everyone's here for that money. The audience is also here for that money. But we need to look at where that money's going and how that money is being spent by different groups online to make sure they make the money in future. If we look at how a legal brand spends its marketing budget to acquire its audience to gain ARPU, average revenue per user, it is a fragmented model compared to how the illegals make and spend their money acquiring audience in future. The reason for that is regulation. The reason for that is also you're dealing with a model that's been infected with crime. Yes, it can change, but it doesn't change that presence of crime unless all legal stakeholders start to understand you all have skin in this game. All of you want that money from this gambling business model, okay? However, you will not get to that ecosystem essential of the money if you don't start working together and seeing illegal gambling as all of your problems, okay? It's not something that you can go, federal government, DOJ, you deal with it. FBI, you deal with it. Regulator, you deal with it. Regulators have hardly got any budget in any state in America, okay? So how are they going to deal with this problem? And the other thing is, it's your money, okay? It's your money that's being stolen here. So you have a license, you have an exclusivity in some states, Hard Rock in Florida, for example, to gain money from the legal gambling model. So if it's being stolen from you, surely you should be slightly bothered about that. Slightly concerned to get your money back, slightly concerned to not keep leaving the house with a fistful of $100 bills that you're just littering all over the street, and everybody is following you and then picking them up and still continuing to steal from you because it's easy to do this. So we're showing a lot of our stakeholder clients, stop making it so easy to be stolen from, start getting upset about this, don't get angry about it, get your money back, and stop having your money stolen from you in the future.
No, this is really, well, obviously you're passionate about what you're building. So
thank you.
So it's awesome. I wanted to actually, on the topic of Florida, I'm going to sort of mix in some of the Q&A. Don't want to go the full hour. We'll go close to it because there's some questions I do want to ask. If we guys could go to slide 30, just to show Florida, because that's the other, potential crown jewel that, the likes of DraftKings and whatnot would like to be involved with. 1.6 billion of illegal activity, small little sliver for...
Exactly, but it's, again, you're looking at here, we only have 106 million on the legal side, but it only legalized in November.
Right.
Okay.
So maybe better
perspective on
maybe better to look at sort of the first half, which obviously we annualize those numbers, which many of the people listening to the call can easily do. They understand those dynamics, but it's still a very big illegal channel. And from a market perspective, I guess maybe I would have thought the market would have been a little bit bigger. I wonder if there's any, is that just because the legal channel has been, the Hard Rock product, no offense if they're listening, not very good. It's not comparable. And they'd admit it themselves. Saying that they want to work with others, sort of an admission that, your product's not where it needs to be.
But at least it's an admission from a tribal group that we're open to working with others.
Right.
Just another way
that is a little breath of fresh air relative to what we've heard.
Yeah. I've worked on a Hard Rock brand in my past before setting up YieldSec as well. And again, it's a great powerhouse brand that should do really well here. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
So consumers love the brand, consumers want to engage with it, and it's got that, if you look at we're going to touch again in a moment on advantages and disadvantages between legal and illegal. They've got one great big advantage with Hard Rock, which is they've got this lovely kind of aspirational land-based estate with all these new guitar casinos and everything else.
That's right.
So they've got a land-based estate that consumers want to go to. Okay, so when you can have the dual play of here is a great product and here is a great place to go, and you bring those two things together, that's a powerhouse against illegal gambling. Because illegal gambling is never going to have land-based resorts.
No.
They maybe will send you to a holiday weekend in Costa Rica if you're lucky. kind of
Right,
thing.
right.
And even then, you wouldn't want to be at that holiday weekend.
Yeah, you don't want to be at that casino
if you're not being intoxicated too much to make you forget that you were on that weekend. So there's got no rival there. So I can see what's going on in Florida. Let's have a think about the numbers then, okay? So are the numbers big enough? Floridians spend less money on gambling per capita than most US states do, okay? So let's not be saying this is a runaway train. Just because everybody's seen the Hard Rock monopoly, everybody's assuming tons of money are going to be over there. So let's not make the mistake we made in America 5 years ago either.
Right.
It's not necessarily a gold rush. This business and making money in it, it's tough slugging every damn day. Okay.
Yeah, it's a knife
so let's
fight,
get focused on customers are coming to the industry to make money from them. Industry's going to the customers to make money from them. It's an adversarial model. Okay. If the customers have less money in that state, they will be spending less money as well, okay? So let's just bear that in mind. In California, you've got the idea that, oh, they're all rich, they're gonna do their brains and spend tons of money on gambling.
Sure.
But they've got a lot of other stuff to pay money on. Catalytic converters and taxes and everything else.
Catalytic
Now, it's one of my, whenever I go to Los Angeles, all I see is catalytic converter signs everywhere. And then I realized that I remember reading about somebody who recently got shot just for their catalytic, some celebrity got shot for his catalytic converter in his car. So I remember reading that story and thinking, is that still a thing?
Oh my
But it
gosh.
obviously is. So looking at Florida, let's not assume that it's a crown jewel, yes, but let's get it to a point where let's get it to reality here. All of the audience, all of their activity, all of the time. We're looking at multiple things there across all of those ecosystem essentials. One of those is how long did you spend on those websites? So which pages did you look at? How many times did you visit them? What's your frequency of visitation on those pages? What we're seeing in the illegal industries, even they don't make that much money in Florida, so it's a lot less per capita than we expected it to be, but you can't screw with the reality of YieldSec. All the audience, all their activity, all of the time.
Got it.
So when we're looking at Florida, we've never been wrong on our numbers, and just to put that in context, so how can I trust YieldSec numbers? Super Bowl 2 years running now, we came out before the Super Bowl and we said it's going to be worth this. Okay? In overall marketplace, legal industry, illegal industry. We said the same thing on the day after the Super Bowl ended. I think it was February 10th this year. We came out and went, it's 1.4 billion in bets legally and 4.1 billion in bets illegally. GGR, okay? Not handle. So we came out and said that. Everybody lost their mind on social media and was saying, how can that be true? It's absolute horseshit. These guys don't know what they're talking about, kind of thing. It must be nonsense. And if DraftKings and FanDuel are half the marketplace, it should be this much money.
Right, yeah.
Okay, even FanDuel came out and said, we're not half the marketplace.
Right, yeah. They know.
So what YieldSec said led to a whole bunch of echoes and rumors coming out over the next 2 weeks. And then finally, I had to keep my mouth shut. My team were kind of going, just don't say anything on social media as well. So we didn't say anything. We kept our powder dry, waited for the numbers to come out in March. When the numbers came out, what was the legal number? 1.398 billion.
Got it.
So 1.398 is very close to
So
that.
there is a rigorous reconciliation process that you guys are going through. You do a similar process with the legal channel as well in terms of it's sort of truing up your numbers relative to what gets reported by the states and whatnot.
To put it simply, we use an apples to apples methodology. So we're basically looking all the audience, all their activity, all of the time. Now, how long did you spend on this website? Which pages did you go to? Which products did you interact with? Are any of those pages commercially linked pages? Are they transactable? So we're looking at what's targeting, what's accessible, what's transacting across all that stuff. If you were on those pages, how long were you there for? We then impute a value per visit. So we're not looking at it in terms of what's an average customer and what's he spending. How many pages did you go to? Which pages were they? How long did you spend there? Were there any transactable pages within that? Transactable means you either logged in, you logged out, or you basically went to a deposit page or a gameplay page or a bet placement page. So from that value per visit, there is a different value assigned to legal and illegal on those websites. So if I'm going to a legal one, what's my average deposit size going to be? How many things do I have to fill out in terms of registration? So we were talking earlier about registration. Average American website and app, legally, takes me 4.5 minutes to register an account, okay? Average illegal gambling website takes me 42 seconds to register an account. So all of those are factors in terms of affecting how do I get to my bet, how much money will I then leave behind on that bet?
Right.
So that's what we're factoring for. So just to get you to that sense of numbers, we are very happy to come out publicly and say this is what we think those numbers are. We're happy to be shot down in flames if we're wrong, Luckily, we never have been. Touch
Yeah.
wood.
No, that's super helpful. I think I want to hit on one data point just because it's super topical.
Absolutely.
And I know you were abroad over the last few weeks, but you're always staying up to date on news. I think I would jump to the Utah slides, guys. I think it's some of these we don't have the direct numbers on, but if you could go to
Utah is early because
17 or 20.
Yeah.
Guys, slide 20. You guys will see the Utah numbers. I think this is fun because the state senator or senator from Utah had penned a letter and said basically that FanDuel and DraftKings are acting as one company and are anti-competitive, and there's a lot of reasons why I would disagree with that. But I think it's ironic because there's a lot of activity that's happening in his state per your numbers and per our conversations and me having some awareness around that. He obviously doesn't have awareness around the fact that I guess he thinks that his state is perfect and doesn't have illegal activity, but obviously there is. Maybe we should send him a copy of the deck just so he has some perspective.
I had a discussion with the we had a discussion with the Bee, which is one of the biggest newspapers in Utah. Okay, so the Bee's done a whole bunch of stuff on illegal gambling and how even lottery's not allowed there. So they discussed it, and I think the Bee, a lot of the media in Utah have a clear understanding that this is an issue. Okay,
Got it.
And it's not necessarily a problem, but if Utah residents are interacting with this product, surely the benefit should be going to the state. And that's what's not happening right now.
No, of course not.
So if you just want to bury your head in the sand and ignore this thing, again, this is what led to the problem in America now. We've had 3 decades of online gaming. We've only had 6 years going into 7 now of the legal spectrum existing. And it's tough slugging to get it back to a point where we have a level playing field. So when we say things like, well, legalization and regulation creates a level playing field, no, it doesn't. Not just automatically. It's not like magic. It's not like watching the movie Wicked or something. It's not just all of a sudden going to happen. What needs to happen here is you need to understand that we're coming from a wicked background where people who are evil have basically controlled this thing for decades, and now we need to convert it because this was a sewer, and now we're trying to make it do something for our communities. Build infrastructure, pay for housing, pay for hospitals, and also just have an industry that creates jobs and innovation here in America.
Yeah.
And that's not what's been allowed to happen so far.
Not in Curacao or Costa Rica.
Not even there, because again, where does the money go from
It's
those
not really
places?
even there
It's
anyway,
not even
right?
there. So even Curacao and Malta and Gibraltar, they're all being used. Everyone's exploited here. So that's the thing. There's only victims in the illegal gambling spectrum here. Everybody is. Commerce, community, consumers, and even the offshore territories that are being kind of used as licensing hubs. And again, let's just ask one quick question here. Why does licensing exist in Curacao, in Malta, in Gibraltar? Why do they have licensing regimes where illegal gambling flock to? Why? It's not because they need a license to operate online. Do you think any consumer's going, oh, I'm going to check the license and find out where they're based? No one gives it. They'll see the name Curacao. Most people can't even say it. They'll be like, what's this Curacao?
Yeah.
What is it? Is it a form of hot chocolate I'm looking at here?
Hey, don't make fun of us Americans. We're not great at pronunciation, all right?
Even I, look, I'm half Dutch, and even I have to look at that kind of go, what is that name exactly? Curacao? So everybody who sees that name kind of gets confused, but when you see it and it's got a license number next to it, what does it mean to you? As a consumer, it means nothing. It doesn't provide any trust. So let's ask the one fundamental question here, and I'll look at the camera for this bit. Why does anybody have, from illegal gambling, why does any licensee exist? Why do illegal gambling destinations have licenses? Money. They want to get access to bank accounts. That mean they can move their money from one place, Curacao, Malta, etc., to another place, which is a rule of law based economic system where they can buy assets and move money around. And again, fundamentally, why does money want to move that way? Because it wants to control assets and create more crime in the future, because that's what illegal gambling does, leads to other forms of illegality, other consequences. So in Utah, where you are not licensing and regulating this business, you are feeding the weaponization of other forms of crime in the future. That's what's happening. And some of those will be based in your state. Okay, it's not all going to be taken abroad, because if they're making money from your citizens on one thing, remember that illegal gambling, like illegal streaming, is a conduit into other forms of crime. So if I'm looking at your residents, your audience, if they're interacting with my products, am I just making money on them on gambling? No, I'm making money from you on lots of things, because I'm preparing for the day when you run out of money for the gambling, and now I need to sell you loans. Now I need to sell you financial products. Now I can sell you online pornography. Now I can sell you hair loss treatments. It's all data mining. All of this stuff is, okay? And they learn from the tech platforms real well, okay? If I can sell you one thing, I can sell you more things. And I want you as a shill for the future. I don't want you just today. I want to keep using you. So illegal streaming understands that. Consumers have been absolutely bewitched by illegal streaming, where they think, oh, it's great, I can watch Gladiator 2 for nothing. And therefore I don't need to go out. That's a couple of $100 I didn't need to spend on that whole evening out with my girlfriend.
Right.
However, illegal streaming is going to make fortune out of you because you are bewitched by that lie. So you think you got something for nothing, but really they screwed you, and they're going to make you a victim of crime now and in the future. And when you are a victim of crime, you won't ask the one question you should ask, which is, how did I become a victim of crime? Because I illegally streamed. Because I gave somebody a window into my world and my online presence for 2 hours of watching that Ridley Scott movie. I was able to just let them take whatever they wanted from my machine.
Right.
So now they can keystroke log me, they can ransomware attack me, they can ID thieve me, they can do all those things to me, and I'll blame it on Russian hackers.
Right.
But actually it was me doing it to myself because I was illegally streaming, believing that I was going to get something for nothing. No such thing as a free lunch.
No,
okay?
no, definitely not. We'll wrap with one sort of high-level question, because I've sort of weaved in a lot of my questions and what I sort of anticipated others' questions would be. So we're kind of 6 months into, call it 6 months into like this topic of the illegal market size scale really coming back to the forefront, at least for investors that I speak with, and certainly it was less on our radar because of where the growth was and all that stuff that we talked about. I guess maybe from your perspective and all the work that you guys are doing, do you sense that there's even just a subtle shift in people's awareness levels, understanding that this is a problem and there are solutions to said problem? Do you sense that there's a little bit of, a few months ago we talked and you were like, it's so early, it's early days. I think you have great perspective. So for investors that are looking at this opportunity, is the word getting out and is getting out effectively? Obviously, there's going to be more work to be done. The work is never done, but maybe we'll end with that. Just sort of your broader perspective on that topic.
Sean, thank you. Look, the work is never done is a good point, okay? Can the work change? Can the spectrum change here, where you can basically take from the universe that exists across the online gambling spectrum in America, can we get control of this in the future? And can we have more of it going to the legal licensed estate than is going to crime right now? Absolutely, it's shifting. The problem is it's shifting in the wrong direction. Part of that is it's the half year, okay? We have a lot more activity at the beginning of the year for account opening and recruitment. So this coming back to the second half of the year, when we meet again, we'll go through the full numbers for 2024. Right now, we're looking at a marketplace that's 74% illegal, 26% legal. However, even though that sounds bad, that nearly 3/4 of this has gone to crime, okay? It's way bigger than any analyst out there was saying before, and saying everybody's going, well, there's going to be 10, 15, 20% compound growth. What we're looking at now is basically a marketplace where you can have 5, 6, 7, 8 times growth of this thing in the future, okay? But who will win? Which companies are going to be the victors in that? Is it necessarily has to be DraftKings and FanDuel, or does it have to be some of these new entrants? Because if you start bringing in companies who are now looking at predictors, for example, if they become part of the M&A and it goes to companies like DraftKings, FanDuel, and the rest of the spectrum, there's some really rich growth here to be had in my view, because that's clearly a product that the under 30-year-old demographic is identifying clearly as the new gambling, okay? That many of them don't even call it gambling, they're calling it predicting and investment and all this nonsense that they've heard on TikTok and Instagram videos. But it's clearly a gambling product of the future in terms of how you repackage it. To me, it's the traditional gambling that I've ever seen. It's just in a new wrapper. But sometimes that new and improved, maybe you need that in a business like ours, which has been there as long as human beings have been here. So there's everything to play for in my view, but you have to understand that illegal gambling is not just one problem, it's many. It affects so many things in the ecosystem, from how we set up the regulation and taxation in the state, because again, all of those things are Jenga blocks being pulled out of the tower. So the biggest point to bear in mind here is legal gambling does not get to win if you let the big bad wolf of illegal gambling in. And we did let it in from the beginning, okay? So now we need to catch it and get it out, but it's going to be across every stakeholder's view of the marketplace, and that includes regulators, Department of Justice, FBI, legal licensed operators, again, because it's all your money that's being taken here, and you're the ones who are constantly being asked to pay for everything as well. Pay for the self-exclusion, pay for the child protection, pay for the, if we do kind of stupidities like, let's have an advertising ban. So lots of regulators will say things like, oh, there's so much gambling advertising, all I see is MGM and Caesars posters everywhere. I can't deal with it, it's freaking me out. I don't need this anymore. So you go out and you ban it, what will happen? You'll still be seeing advertising as a consumer, except it's all coming from illegals now. Look at what happened in Belgium. Belgium brought in an advertising ban in 2023. it was around 60% legal, 40% illegal at that point. Now it's 80% illegal and
Really?
20% illegal.
Wow.
20% legal. And you went from a few hundred, 500, just over 500, I believe, illegal brands operating there, to more than 2,000.
Wow.
Okay, so it shows you that as soon as you do shift the tectonic plates, the Jenga tower starts to collapse. That's what's happening, okay, in marketplaces across Europe. So, can we get this to a better perspective in America? Yes. 2025 is going to be a key year for us. It's a year when there's nothing like the Olympics, which can always add a wrinkle to things, but that's been a wrinkle that's been exploited by crime, as also the Copa America. So there's another 4 years we've got to catch up to another event like that happening. In America next year, the main focus is, let's get the Super Bowl right, let's get March Madness better than it was this year, because March Madness this year was running at like 75% illegal, 25% legal. So there's a huge amount of perspective to go on that one, a huge amount to play for. But let's start working together across the many problems that come from illegal gambling. And again, get back down to make the money you should. That's why everybody comes to us, why they come to us for which stocks to pick. They come to us for how do we run our business better on marketing, how do we run our regulation and enforcement better as a regulator. So across the piece here, it's just audience, activity, and time. That's all it takes. And all of those need to be worked on to get to a better view of what the marketplace should be delivering in America for Americans.
So I guess to summarize in my super, super simple terms, because that's what I am. I'm a simple man. Things are getting better, but we are not even still scratching the surface in terms of what needs to change, scope and size and all that.
Sean, you might be a simple man, but you think through incredibly complex problems, okay? So you're dealing with here that this is a multifaceted problem. Let's deal with it the right way to get to a point where it starts providing the benefit it should for American community, American commerce, and the American consumer. Because fundamentally, they're the ones who suffer when this thing goes wrong. They're the ones who will suffer when there's another collapse of something like an FTX. And again, bear in mind, FTX was just as much a gambling collapse as it was a financial collapse, okay?
Yeah.
So start looking at this the right way. So for all the excitement that there is around predictors and how they're financial products right now, come on, guys. It's a gambling product. Let's get real about this. Let's start bringing it into the right area that it should be in. Let's start taxing and regulating it the right way. And fundamentally, when this business produces profit, it also produces taxation, community benefit, and benefits for society. Fundamentally, why did I start this business? I see that the business that I spent most of my life in has a ability to provide a river of unalloyed good. And I do mean that with a straight face. Unalloyed good can come from the gaming industry when you run it right. The problem is none of us run it right at the moment. We all need to work harder and better together. And fundamentally, that can be driven by profitability, which always seems to motivate people elsewhere in the world.
Well, I think that's. I mean, we'll end it there. I think from our perspective is, because I speak to some people and they say, well, a lot of what you're telling me is kind of contingent on the government maybe, figuring it out. And I said, first of all, no. They're not the only stakeholder in this, right? There's multiple people that in multiple parts of the market that need to be better and work better and have the incentive to. But even government, they do have an incentive. This is a little different than other industries because the taxation dollars can flow in very quickly if you act appropriately.
Exactly. Now, if you take it from a land-based perspective, 50 years ago when you were running lotteries and it was always a monopoly lottery in every state, in every country in Europe, it was just a monopoly. One company ran the lottery and they always told you that was because you couldn't have choice and convenience and competition there because one company needs to get those millions of dollars jackpots. And it kind of works, it bears itself out. Now, anytime that the government's needed money in those countries, and cyclically they always do every few years, they hit a recession point and it's like, we need some cash. Where would you reverse your dump truck, your empty dump truck to? You'd take it not to Fort Knox, you'd take it to the lottery company and go, fill her up, please. I'll have premium and keep putting that cash in the bag. And the lottery company would say, well, because you protect the market and you close down illegal lotteries and you use the police to help us, I will fill it up, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay? That could start happening online if you only helped the legal industry.
Right.
Instead of just going, it's your problem, and the legal industry then blames it on the government and police and says, it's their problem. So everybody's passing the parcel with this kind of like this burning box of like the money's in that box and you've all set fire to it. Now you're all going to go, who's going to get it just so they can unwrap it? Everybody should be getting their share of that money. But you need to basically stop playing past the parcel and start going, it's all of our problems. All of us have skin in this game. All of us want to make money from this, and all of us should be looking at this from the perspective of, it's our money, take back the control, own your marketplace. That's what this should be about.
Awesome. That's a great way to stop it. I think.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate it. We went over an hour. Probably could have done 2 hours. We might have lost some people if we did 2 hours.
I apologize if we did. Thank you for listening.
I think it sounds like for how busy you are traveling the world and around the U.S. that you're definitely making some progress on a lot of these initiatives, which is I think for a lot of people that are listening to this, that's encouraging, especially shareholders of a lot of these companies that are thinking about the longer term and also the near term, right? Because there's near and long-term opportunity within all this.
Thank you to you, Sean. Thank you to the Hedgeye team, and thank you to the audience as well.
Yeah,
Anything
absolutely.
anybody wants to look up, yieldtech.com or talk to the Hedgeye team, we'll be happy to chat to you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely.
everybody.
We'd love to make those connections. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. We look forward to hosting future calls. Take care.